Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm in Azure. Hope you are doing good and safe wherever you are. So we are back with a new content on Azure Logic App standards. So if you are new to standard Logic Apps or else standard workflows in Azure Logic Apps, or whenever you are updating a workflow that is developed by some other developers, then you might have come up with many questions related to that particular workflow, like what are the connectors being used, how the workflow has been designed, what are the operations that been involved. If you want to test it, how do you going to test it? Because you already know that be it a standard or a consumption one, Logic Apps today provides 1,000+ of connectors, which will help you to design your orchestration, which primarily comes as a low code or no code kind of framework. Okay, so if you right now the thing that we are going to discuss is there is something called assistant that they have added to Logic App standard. So we are going to discuss how it going to help us if you are starting if you are someone starting new on the Logic Apps, or else if you have worked on it and if you want to know what other developers have developed it. So how do you go to that? But before that, this is right now available only on the standard one, Logic App standards. They have a plan to add it to the Visual Studio Code extension as well in the near future. But as of today, it is right now supported only in the Azure portal, that too on the standard Logic Apps. So consider you have a couple of Logic Apps. Consider you have a couple of workflows here. You can create a new one also. For example, if I open any one here, at the top you will see something called assistant, uh, which is a kind of a chatbot kind of experience that you will get when you go to your designer, where you can ask your questions about the currently opened workflows or any Logic App in general. So this will generally generate answers and provide you access to Logic App documentation and the best practices that we follow. And the it is actually backed by Azure Open API and the ChatGPT. It is right now working only with the Logic Apps. If you give something outside of a Logic App, it will not give you anything of that context. If you look at you have this assistant. When you click on it, you see this beautiful message coming up, a kind of similarly whatever you have the chatbot kind of things comes up, right? So uh, it is for example, it is giving some prompts here for you to start with, like if you want to describe this workflow, or else if you are new and if you want to start what you can ask even the general questions as well. Okay, so if you just try to, if for example, if I want to know what is inside this workflow, this workflow is all about, then you can just mention something like describe this workflow. So this will help you get to know the sense of what actions has been used, what are the different steps, and it will give you this one. Again, you can take this out and it will help you in documentation if needed. If you are very new to Logic Apps, if you don't know how to create workflows, which action to use, or how do you write some expressions, even that also very much this assistant will help you with. Okay, so if you look at this, it gave me some description around that, where you can see it has beautifully given 5 steps process, whatever the things I have in my workflow. It also is explaining what inside the workflow it is doing. So what payload it is taking. If you want to test this, you can always take the payload also. If you look at it invokes the another workflow, that is what we have here. It is also giving which workflow it is calling, then what kind of parameters we are passing, all that details. And then you have this check condition where you are checking the result that been returned from your earlier steps. It is all giving which will help you to even in the documentation also if you want. But as mentioned, it is right now AI generated. Maybe it might be incorrect, or better you can just read out and take a look on this one once. But it will definitely help you in kind of documentation, like what are the types of triggers and all that. Okay, so that is how it is. So let's say if I want to, if I'm very new to this and I read somewhere that tracked properties are something we can use in Logic Apps to track what, if you want to do some analysis later part, we generally add tracking properties. And if someone is very new to this, who don't know what is staggered properties and how do you add them. So you can even ask that basic general questions, which it will again take it from the official documentation or else the curated uh, the community blogs and all that, and it will try to give you the proper answer to it. So if you type something like how can I add tracked properties, or else let's start with what is tracked property. So it is just generating it. It is saying outside of Logic Apps. Maybe we need to give it in a more better way. So what is tracked property on action in Logic App? Okay, it is saying in a Logic App, a tracked property on an action allows you to specify a custom property name, which will allow you track specific inputs and outputs. So that is basically when you enable tracked properties, you already know that it will get logged and it will help you in later troubleshooting. That is what it is showing. Then, for example, let's say if you're not sure what are the different actions available to send mail. Say, for example, if I give this as an input, so it will give you a list. To send email in Logic App, you can use send an email. This action is allowed. It is basically saying you can use Office 365 or Outlook, which are native to it, native to Microsoft, as in. So it is giving some suggestions around that. If you want to ask some more questions on that, like how do I add expression, something like that, you can also do that. Say, for example, in the response right now, I'm saying product out of stock for delivery. Let's say if I want to add uh, which product I have to say the out of delivery, then I can just add here expression to it. So you can just add how can I add expression in response. Here I named this as a response, right? So that is why I'm giving this response action to send product ID in the response body. Yeah. So what this is saying, order received and tracked ID. Yeah, you can pretty much see here in the trigger body. If you look at my body here, I have the payload, the request payload where I have the order details, order ID, customer ID, product ID, and all that. So based on that, it has given you the sample JSON that you can use. Okay, so this one is right now it has given it for the response one. Maybe I should have some meaningful names here, then it will be very much easier. So I have response one and response as well. So if you give some meaningful name, it will appropriately take it. But the idea is it is clearly saying you can add this expression which is at the rate trigger product ID to retrieve the product ID. Similarly, it is giving you a good message like order ID. If you look at this positive response where I'm saying order ID is received and the tracking ID is order received and tracking ID is I passed only the order ID. Now it is clearly saying that you can add a few more steps where the product ID that you can pick up from your trigger body. So this will be the expression. If you are not aware how to write the expressions also, this is how it is going to help you. So these are this is something that I want to bring on today's video. You can write what is trigger. Even if you ask that question, it will be, yeah, a trigger is basically whatever you have the first step of your Logic App workflow, all that it will pick up and it will tell you. Yeah, but with this, there are a couple of limitations as well. As I mentioned, this has been AI generated, so at some places you might see some inaccurate responses from the assistant. It is always better we validate it before use it. And also right now it is not support for conversational threads. That means if you ask some question and when you ask the immediate question based on your previous context, it is not at this stage to answer your I mean, taking the previous context and answer your question. So there is some limitation on that. Also, you might see somewhere if you have a complex logic apps, then you might see some answers being inappropriate. Maybe some parallel, you have some parallel branches coming out, and you have too many loops, all that happening. Then it might be sometimes you might see some incorrect workflows. So it is always whenever you see something I mean, it is a suggestion from Microsoft. You can just report it as a feedback. You can just hit here like and unlike. For example, if you give here and you can just respond back to them so that this feature can be improved further in the next releases. So that is how it is. And there are a couple of uh, like the general questions that comes up as like how do it generate the responses. As I mentioned, it is all powered by the OpenAI, Azure OpenAI and ChatGPT, and it is very much taking the data from Logic App documentation and from some reputed sources along with the network data that it's been trained on. And there's this one very specific to Logic App only, so your data will not go outside. So your data is very much protected. This workflow assistant does not collect, save, or store any kind of data that you are passing to it. It is just on the fly. So these are a couple of questions. I would say you can just try this out and yeah, make a better use of it because I personally have tried it for some documentation and it has given a good responses. Yeah, that's all for today, guys. Yeah, if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that it will help me to grow much and bring out some content very similar to this one, whatever the new things comes into the Azure phase. Thank you so much for your time.